Hey, everyone here on the Investing Stuff You Should Know podcast, where we bring you expert insights into the world of investing. My name is Johnny Nelson, your host, and we're thrilled today to have our special guest, Brady Hoffpauir. Brady, thank you for joining us. You and I connected at the Best Ever Conference about a month ago in Utah. It was a great conference, and it just gave us the reason to connect, to talk. We had a mutual acquaintance, and now we're here talking a podcast. So welcome here, sir.
Yeah, thanks, John. And like you said, great conference we went to. I don't know, I gain a lot from just the interaction of other people in the space, both investors and the business side. There's always something new to learn and sharpen our senses on, if you will. We're never quite there wherever there is, and so just being able to disconnect from the day-to-day business and head out to some of these conferences, reconnect with some people that we've known in the business for a long time. As you mentioned, our mutual acquaintance there that introduced us, and then also just continually learning. Yeah. I'm really happy to be here, Johnny. Really excited. Always like the opportunity to be able to share with people.
Just before we get into your background and then, of course, the storyline here, Brady, what is for maybe newer investors or seasoned ones as well? What is your recommendation for, or what's been your approach for when you go to a conference? To like, what's your mindset and things you want to accomplish? Do you have any practice or anything that you set yourself some standards or some things you go through to make sure you have a successful event? Because we encourage experienced and newer investors to go to these conferences. There's limits to them, they're expensive. So there's of the commitment of time and money commitment, we probably most of us have come up with some type of process or structure to get the most out. What's yours if you have one?
Yeah, I do. And I'd probably switch. Yeah, I want to talk specific maybe to both camps, right? So one is
Yeah.
kind of new investor side of the world, and the other one is someone that's super experienced, maybe. I think it's a different mindset for both, but I think it begins in the beginning with like, what's your goal in investing? Yeah. So for that newer investor, what's really your goal investing? And I think to some extent that starts with maybe not always financial. Sometimes it's the financial, in other words, brings the real reason for investing for most people, right? It starts with that financial mindset. But then that gap, right? There's some kind of gap in there for everybody, no matter what level of experience you have, right? You're
There's
looking.
there's always another level, Brady. There's always another
Exactly.
level.
Yeah. So no, whether you're a new investor or experienced, there's this mindset gap of, okay, this is where I want to be. And then there's this gap. And so I would these conferences fill in some need within that gap, right? Regardless of experience. So with me, it's different than the new investor, right? Because I have the
Yeah.
more business mindset of things. But I would say for people that are going into this, figure out what that gap is for you. And it's always tied back to either your vision or your why and where you want to get to. And then the first question is, okay, is this conference really going to feed the need? It may be a wonderful conference, right? There's a ton of them out there to choose from.
Yes.
And it may be a wonderful place to go talk to people. Is it going to meet the need for you is really the first question. Because like you said, you're spending valuable time. Your most precious asset on the planet is time, especially away from your family. And then you're also spending money on that. And is this going to meet the need of that? I think answering those two questions formulates the reason why you're going. And then from that, early on, it was probably education. And if your goal is education, then especially if they have breakouts at conferences, pick and choose where you're going to get the highest and best use of your valuable time that you're spending at this conference. For the more experienced investor or even person that's in the business of investing, so maybe they're a syndicator or a sponsor, a lot of times on that side, it's really networking, right? It's how many people can I talk to find meaningful relationships that we can find ways to work together on perhaps in the future. So it really depends on what that gap is from your starting point.
Those are fantastic breakdown of reasons and a structure to approach. And you broke it down for both camps there, Brady. So that's really good stuff.
Yeah.
I went a little out of sequence there with my normal order. I have people, the guests, introduce themselves, which was on purpose. But go ahead and give the folks a little bit because I give people the jewels, the nuggets right up front throughout the podcast and throughout even first thing here. But explain a little bit about where you live. I think you have a family and then what you've done professionally in the past.
Yeah, so we'll start with kind of a little bit about me. So I, of course, name is Brady. Live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Absolutely love it here. We've been here for around about 10 years and fell in love with it when we first moved here. And then, yeah, what the path for us to as far as getting into real estate investing started with we had done some investments. We used to live in Orlando. We'd done some investments there, more single family type things. 2008 hit, killed all dreams of success in that industry, dug ourselves out of that, and in the process moved to Charlotte.
Yes.
And we really didn't lose a ton of money in that, but it was more, we also started having kids, came to Charlotte. I don't know if for people out there that have kids, you tend to realize they do cost money. And so it tied up a lot of our assets at the time. And then fast forward, we got into a position where like, hey, we wanted a lot more freedom
Okay. Yeah.
of choice, I would say,
Yeah.
in the world of what we do, where we live, and so on. And there
Was
was
your
some
wife is or was your wife working professionally at the time? I guess I presume both of you guys were full-time professionals.
yeah, yeah. And so we started to get some pressure from the industry that I was in at the time was going through some rough times. And what we realized is that at any moment, we might not live where we really love to live.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so that forced us into this mindset of let's go find an alternative income that if almost a fallback. And so we started looking at rental properties again. Yeah, I was like, hey, we're going to go build a platform or a portfolio, sorry, of rental properties. And that was our mindset. So we started looking at single family. And then the epiphany came in that this is silly. Why don't we find more property under one roof, more units
Yeah.
under one roof?
Yeah.
So we were like, let's look at duplexes, quads, this kind of thing. We haven't bought anything yet. And then we fell upon a 5 unit property, which which in loan space is a commercial loan. And I realized I don't know much about commercial property. So that trigger got us into, by the way, that deal didn't go through, but it triggered the kind of pushing us forward into a space that we didn't know much about, which was commercial real estate, specifically apartment buildings. And what we learned is that, wow, there's a lot more that is in our control and how to make money with a given property, right? Because it's based upon its income. It's not based upon its neighbor necessarily. It's more like a business. And there's a lot of things that I can change when it comes to net operating income, which is the primary evaluation for those properties, right? Like apartment buildings or whatever, right? In the commercial space. And so that was the kickstart into the world that we're in now, which is commercial real estate, apartment buildings, and syndications, and really gaining that understanding that, hey, we can not only improve a property and improve its, let's say, appreciable value, but by doing so in commercial real estate, we also have so many more knobs to turn, right? We can we can lower its expenses, we can operate it better, we can improve the property, get better rents, and all of these things add to its value rather than just where it's located in the market. And so that was the big Kickstarter for us, and that aha, hey, let's go down this path because that seems to make a lot more sense. Right.
That's excellent, man. Real quick side question. In your at the time, and maybe it was current, but now it's past corporate life. Did you have much exposure to the business side of operating businesses or looking at that from a financial perspective? And did that help? This is maybe for other people out there that are in the space, similar space of a manager, different. A lot of professionals are in the financial management space as well, and not directly just financial, but watching the numbers. Did that help you realize the more business perspective, business side of it on a larger property or commercial property?
I would say somewhat yes. So my background is in engineering. So I started off in engineering, and then quickly when I started off in my career, I realized, hey, I like people. Right. So my path in my career went from engineer to I really like people. Let's go find something that involves more people than my computer.
Yes.
And so that led me into more of leadership roles, project management roles, and then back into project management. And so and I was responsible for large teams, international teams of people.
Okay. Yeah.
Large sums of money, large risk, right? There's a lot of things that you're managing. And ultimately, when people hear all of that, what they should be hearing is you're basically going into a world of you're solving problems with people, right?
Yeah.
So
I like that. Oh, I like that.
You're not
Yeah.
solving problems with finding the best way to do some engineering analytical problem. There's people that are solving those problems. And so as these things come up, whether it's a financial risk, whether it's a technical risk, or whether it's something else, you're really solving problems with people, right? And how you're working with people and drawing these teams together and working within those teams and so on. So I would say, yeah, that side of it, that mindset of it is a definite business mindset because you have financial responsibilities, you have people responsibilities too. I would say both aspects of that played very well into the real estate side, because fast forward into real estate, you're it's similar problems, it's just different, right? The problems
Yeah.
themselves are different, but how you solve them are not that drastically different. You
Yeah.
have a
But your
business.
point that you made is that you're now like engineering or managing people and you're solving people problems. Homes, houses, residences, these are all for people, and everything we do is for people, but some of it's more abstract or removed. But
Right.
housing, habitation is really closely related to people. And in the commercial space, you're really, hopefully, you're working with excellent teams as well. You have your broker,
Yeah.
your banker, your insurance broker, all these people, and then hopefully you found a strong team, and it's really fun to creatively put deals together and solve problems within that space.
Yeah, and that, yeah, you hit the nail right there. And so in this commercial space, on the business side, you're building strong teams around you, right? And so for me, as an example of going to some of these conferences, a lot of that is sometimes it's reconnecting with people that I already know for a number of years. Some of it is always looking for new people that we can partner with, always looking for new people that are challenging the process of what we do and those types of things. But ultimately, on the business side, the reason for doing all that is because when you face, let's say you're buying a new property and this property is a little unique in some ways, but you've known this person for a number of years and you're like, man, they would be a really good fit for
Yes.
managing this asset.
Yeah.
You're solving business problems, but it's still the same thing, right? It's
Yeah.
just like some type of project management or other, let's say, role in business. You have a problem. That problem is, hey, this is a unique property. I don't have the expertise, but I know these other people that do, and this person would be the best fit to help us on this project. So you're really marrying the same thing together. It's people solving whatever the risk is over here on the real estate side. How do I find the best person to go solve that problem? A lot of people have read the book Who Not How. It's the same mindset of, I have problems to solve, but I don't have to solve all of them.
Which oftentimes we can't, or we will do it poorly. We'll do all of it rather poorly, or at the maybe best mediocre, and we don't have
Yeah.
the time. And there's most things, there's someone out there that's way better than us. So go find those people, folks, and bring them on your team, or have them help or assist you, or get their wise counsel. Yeah.
And honestly,
Yeah.
Johnny, it's to
Okay. Yeah.
even to that point, it's also, if we tried to, there's a lot of things I can solve, right? If we tried to solve all those things, ultimately we would fail.
Yeah.
Because if you're the one solving every problem, like that's a whole lot of time that you're not paying attention to something else. And so the way that you're structuring these deals is that you go to buy an apartment building. If you do it on your own, it's highly discouraged. I would say, right? I actually know someone that is doing that. And
Right now. Right now.
right now, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fine. It's fine. But that person, I would say, is probably one in a million.
Yeah.
And they have a way of doing things. But I would say they're also not necessarily managing properties like most people would. Yeah, to
Gotcha.
be
Yeah,
fair.
that makes sense. That makes sense here.
If you're going to go buy an apartment building, you need a team, and you need a team that you can trust. You need a team that's experienced and that knows what they're doing. Yeah, and as part of our responsibility also to our investors, someone's bringing in 50,000, 100,000, 500,000 of investment. That's a responsibility that you should feel, in the sense of not just, okay, we're investing that money into deals, or that person is investing money into our deal. So there's a level of responsibility there, but also, hey, I personally feel the responsibility of, I not only myself, but I need to structure a team in place such that I'm trusting the team, because I'm also trusting my investor to come into this deal, but that deal is also highly dependent on the team that's in place to do it. So that
Yeah.
experience level is extremely important.
What I'm about to ask, I'm going to talk about your why. A lot of us are encouraged in professional space, real estate space. It's talked about a lot. We're going to talk about your why, Brady, and then perhaps how that has shifted over time. And oftentimes it does here. But just to give folks a sense, because I didn't actually address it or lay the groundwork for us there. What are you currently like right now? What does the business model look like? Just shortly, oh, I invest in 100-unit apartments in North Carolina, or 50 units. Just give us a little bit of where the business looks like, what the business looks like right now.
So we like apartment buildings. We have started over the last, I would say, several months, also looking at build to rent. And a lot of people aren't familiar with that term. But so apartment buildings, yes, yes. And then build to rent as well. Before I explain the build to rent side, so we syndicate the deal. So we do a syndication business where some of us, the partnership is the active side of the investment. So we're the ones that do the everything, right? And then
Yeah.
we pull in investors that are bringing in their own equity into the deal to fund the deal. And then together we all benefit from that. And so
Yes.
what we buy with that is apartments, but also now we're starting to look at the build to rent space. And for us, the transition between that is super easy. In build to rent, if people aren't familiar with that, it's in effect, you're building an entire community of, as an example, single family homes. These homes are normally small, a little smaller than what you might expect in a normal community. The lots are smaller, but the entire community is built as almost like an apartment building, a flat apartment building, squished down, spread out with yards.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And then there's like,
And
and often not always, but then there's sometimes there's shared communal spaces. You just end up with a lower cost to build. There's oftentimes it's a master plan, and then maybe you have common amenities like maybe a pickleball court or pool, or I'm not presuming what you're doing, but like sometimes things like that can be like developed and it's very walkable. So there's a lot of benefit to people getting their unique individual space, which became very relevant in COVID. And but then it's smaller, so it's a little more cost constrained. So there's definitely like a piece in the market that hasn't been fully explored until the last year or so, and people have really, like yourself, have really looked into it and are championing in that type of thing in some areas. Is that correct?
yeah. Yeah. And I think the benefit of kind of the build to rent space is it's meeting a niche in the market. So you have
Yes.
apartment buildings, which are the I would say the more affordable place to live, especially when you're just newly married or you just moved out and you're on your own. It's the more affordable place to live. And then you got the house, which over the last, I would say, especially over COVID, housing prices you get twofold, right? One, housing prices shot through the roof, right?
Yeah.
Exponentially. They really have not come down, although there's a lot of speculation out there. But then the other hit to people was the interest rates. The interest rates are killing people right now. And even if you're looking to buy a house today versus rent, that gap is substantial. Yeah.
Yes.
And so this build to rent space is really meeting the need in between. So a lot of millennials are getting the space, right? They have small families now. They're tired of the apartment living. They're looking at houses. They're like, wow, one, the price went way up. Two, the affordability to get a loan on that's super duper high.
Yeah.
Right? And then you enter into the build to rent space, which is in between. It's a little bit more than an apartment,
Yeah.
right? These are still smaller houses, a little bit more than an apartment, much nicer community because you actually have a yard. You probably have a fenced in area. You got a lot of amenities that like communities have to offer, maybe a pool and so on. But it's also not a house, right? It's not that demand of the price tag of a house. And so it's really meeting that need. And what we're finding is that people, like in the apartment space, maybe it's an 18-month stay that somebody might live in an apartment, maybe 18 to 24 months or something like
Right.
this on average. In the build to rent space, it's double that because people get into this and it's a community, right? It's a
Yeah.
feeling of belonging. It's a feeling of I have a space now, even though I'm renting it. And so it's really blending those two avenues of I only can do apartments and live in that,
Yeah.
or I only can
I,
buy a house.
I think that's a good segue, Brady. And pivoting back, like the foundation for that question was the why. So there's initial, like a lot of us, it's pretty simple or elementary, though. And like you mentioned, actually at the beginning of the show, we need to have a diversified or an alternative income stream. Now, explain what that is now, your why, how it's evolved, and also I think I can hear some underlying ethos change as well in your why, where you worked on apartment buildings or that was your main bread and butter of investments. Now you're providing this kind of alternative space, and I think that ties in. So give us where you are, the why that was, the why that's now, and then linking it to what you've been offering as a capital company, as an investment company.
Yeah, yeah, and I think and hopefully investors hear their own version of this story as I go through this,
Yeah.
or at least can project like in alternatives in their mind about, hey, this is where I'm starting, but wow, maybe there's other stuff to explore.
Yeah.
So we
There's places
start
to
like,
grow. Like it's really cool. Like people maybe just got a high level. Like you can start it in real estate or whatever business. And I guess hopefully you can hear from Brady's story, and he'll elaborate obviously in a minute here. There's all these places you can go and grow that fits you, that fits your team. That it's really exciting. But please
yeah,
continue, Brady.
yeah, I tell people there's 1,000 ways to make money in real estate, but you got to find what works for you. And in the progression over time is really what I personally enjoy helping people understand.
Yes.
And so for us, like you said, it started personally for us and grew into more of business. And that business even changed, right? Over time. The vision, the why changed over time. So for us personally, it started with that passive income mindset. And the why behind it wasn't the income. And that's where I always try to get people to think about is your why is not the money, right? But it may start with that as a mindset, but that's not it, right? There's something behind that. I want this secondary income because, and that because is really the why. And for us, that because was family flexibility. Yeah. Even if it wasn't the mindset of, hey, we're going to walk away from the job, it was a mindset of flexibility to buffer against what we saw as risk. And it was like, hey, I want that buffer. What it transitioned into is, oh, wow, like we can do this, but we can also help other people do the same thing. And so that was that initial why in the business. And I would say it was a small why. And I'll say why in a minute.
Sure. Yeah.
And that small why in the beginning, although it felt big at the time, was, hey, we're doing this, but we can actually help other people come alongside us that want to invest in real estate. What we found is that there's a lot of people that want to invest in real estate. Their gap, if you will, we get back to gap as before,
Yeah.
their gap is either time, big commitment of time,
Yes.
or it's knowledge. And what we found and what we got excited about is, hey, we can bridge that gap for people, right?
Yeah.
We can put our time in and the time of our partners, right, into these deals and cover all that, including the knowledge, and produce investments for people that they can get into and not only make income from, but they can also get the benefits, the tax advantages of that, right? Because these are pass-through organizations that we create to buy these properties, and all of that benefits comes to our investors. And so that was super exciting for us in the beginning.
Yep.
It still is today, don't get me wrong. Where that transitioned into is as we started to, so we've been primarily on the operations side of where we fit into the partnership world, primarily in the past, has been that operations business mindset, structuring this plan of how we're going to take a property from where it is today into its future state in making profits. All of those operational things is where we focused. And that was really good. But what it taught us was, wow, we're making significant impacts in the community itself. So you're not just buying a building. So on the business side, you're technically buying a business and you're improving that business. On the human side of it was what we started to see was that, wow, we're making like real, legitimate, tangible, visible impacts in this micro community called an apartment complex.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not just in, hey, we painted the walls, we made the cabinet sites, the floors are cool, it has the new smell. It's more than that, right? It's okay, those are all fine. But the reality was that, so we've been buying typically like Class C, which is like workforce housing, if people understand that terminology, it's workforce housing. And a lot of these things that we purchase, either the operations are not great or they need a lot of renovations. And sometimes they're attracting a certain group of people to it that may not always be the group of people that you want to live next door to,
For sure.
to say it delicately. And so in many cases, when we're transforming this community, that community is becoming now a safer community, right?
Yeah.
If you can imagine that, right? Because you're physically not renewing leases with people that may not contribute to a safe living environment for these communities. And by doing so, you go to walk the property 6 months into it and you have tenants walking up to you and they're just thanking you. Right.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. That feeling is incredible.
Yeah, you have
you're
community
morphing.
leaders.
So you're casting your vision, your dream of, hey, this is how I want to see the safety. I want to see the culture. I want to see how this property is run with care and love, I guess is one word to say. And then you see the effort, the results of that, tangible, like you said, efforts of the outcome of that, with tenants thanking you for like transforming it and getting the people that don't want to live like that or don't have that mindset, getting those people out of there, and then just leaving the people that want to have a family, that want to live a good life, that want to live a clean life. Just those people are remaining. Then it really does. Yeah. It's really powerful.
Yeah. To create, I think people underestimate, especially people that have a stable living environment.
Yeah.
I think they underestimate the value of stability and safety in a community.
Yeah.
And so that became our kind of new reality in business, was like, man, we're really transforming this community. The next stage of that, I would say, is where we are today, is this mindset that we call transformational investing, which on the first side, on one side of it, let's say part one is what we just talked about. We're legitimately improving properties, communities, creating safe living environments for people, creating stable environments for people to have families.
Repeat that phrase again for me. I caught it, and I wrote it down earlier, but I want you just to emphasize it for the audience there,
Yeah,
Brady. I
yeah.
want people to
So
hear that carefully and slowly, that it's something unique. It's a philosophy you're deploying. Say it again for
right.
us.
So we call it transformational investing, right? If we could just capture it as a phrase, right? Everything needs
Yes.
a phrase. Everything needs a catchphrase.
Yes.
So we call it transformational investing. And the first part is, like I said, that community transformation. The second part really came from our own personal lives. And that's the part that we've started recently over the last several months. So we're just scratching the surface on this, right? Is that generosity mindset coming from what we're doing? In people, let me take it to a different perspective, right? So you can make money in real estate. That's why people invest in real estate. You can make a ton of money in real estate, right? Over the course of your life, you can build true wealth in real estate. And for us, when we started looking at our business, we started thinking about, hey, what can we do with some of the profits that we're making to make tangible impacts in the world around us? Because that's a part of who we are just as people, right? My wife and I. And so we started to explore this. And then the natural next step for us was, why aren't we talking to other people about this? And that part of it, that we call it a generosity mindset, right? So a friend of mine coined it this way, and I've latched onto it and unashamedly steal it from him. He said, Brady, what you're really doing is you're creating a generosity machine that's fueled by real estate. And I said, that's absolutely it, right?
I
Together,
love
we
that.
call this
Uh,
transforming community and generosity machine. Together, we call that transformational investing. And really, to tag on to this last bit, it's really if if we can grow our bank accounts and we can make a pile of money in
yeah.
life, but if that's where it stops, I feel like we're missing something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
More, I
we're
guess, if we wanted to get philosophical or even beyond, like what is the limits of creating what, yeah, is it just personal, like you said, just a bunch of zeros in the bank account? Or is it creating safety and giving back and spirit of generosity, and one of not clinging on as much money as possible, but sharing it, spreading it, being a conduit for it, for your, obviously you hope and wish to do well for your family, but for those around you as well. So perhaps that's a more true, maybe that's a fuller definition of actual wealth.
yeah, I think you're onto something there. And so while we're not managing this generosity for our investors, what we're simply doing is letting them know, hey, this is what we're doing. We are being intentional about when we make profits from real estate. What resonates with us is we want to make a difference. I tell people, we want to make a tangible impact in the world, meaning I don't want to just dump money somewhere and
Yeah.
not know what that's doing. To me, that's a silly way to contribute. For us, it's like leadership is a big thing for us, right? And developing leadership in high school students is another big thing for us. And so we invest, or not invest, we give to an organization that is developing leadership in the youth, because to us,
Yeah.
that's our future, right? Those are
Yeah.
the future leaders of the world. So why not develop and give them skill sets and in a journey that develops that? Not to sell that necessarily, but that's meaningful to us.
Yes.
Another side that's been meaningful to us is adoptions. We've helped people personally, just out of
Oh,
pocket, because we've been
yeah.
blessed in different ways.
Yeah.
We've also helped charitable organizations. That's their focus, and we trust the way they manage their money. And their focus is to find people that want to adopt but perhaps can't afford it. They do the vetting and everything, and we trust them, and we've been able to help them out. And if you can think about tangible results through generosity, you're on one side with the leadership development, you're transforming our future, right? And on the other side, you're helping a family unit really become a family unit. Either these families can't have children, or they want to adopt because they recognize the need of that. You're literally contributing to the formation of family. And
Such a powerful thing, man. Such a powerful
those
thing.
are very
And
big
one
deals.
is simply like teenagers is like the future, the closer future. And then the adoption is simply the longer future. There's still those
Yeah.
people, those children that are seeking or needing a home, they'll be the future too. They're just maybe another 15, 20 years away or
Mhm.
whatnot, and then just further out. But
Yeah.
yeah, both are the same. Both are tied in with a strong thread there.
And so for us, that why came into this transformational investing. And so when we talk to investors, it's not like we check someone's card at the door. Hey, are you being generous with your investment? That's not it. It's really, hey, helping people understand that yes, real estate investing can grow your wealth. That's obvious. But helping them understand there can be other aspects to this. So one, we're focused in business to transforming communities. Awesome. On the other side of it, hey, as a business, we've chosen to add this other aspect of generosity because we want to make tangible impacts to the world around us. And then really challenging people's mindset, not again, like someone invests with us, we're going to check their card at the door. Are they willing to donate 50% of their profits? It's not what we're doing, but
sure.
helping people understand that there is this path that can come from the fact that you're going to make money in real estate, or at least you should expect to, right? There's no guarantees, but people are growing wealth in real estate for a reason. Can you add in a component that's going to make a difference in the world around you with again, that mindset of we can all grow our bank accounts, and that's great. And that probably meets a very real why for you and your family. And that why is probably not tied to income. It's probably what those dollars can do for your family, right? Whether it's time flexibility or whatever. But then also, are there other ways that you can also partner with either charitable organizations or whatsoever that you can you can add a layer of impact to the world around you?
That's wonderful, man. And then of course that your philosophy, what's really the essence, the core of Brady Hoffpauir and his family is what will attract those kinds of people that are interested in investing like that and thinking like that and doing those kinds of things. They'll attract that towards you. So if somebody just, hey, I'm all about just growing the bank account, then okay, fine. This is what we do over here. And I'm sure it's gonna, but a lot of people that are more mature will resonate with that strongly with what you're doing. And I think that's such a positive and excellent place to just have that laid out. Let's probably just call that for a wrap for the show here, Brady. What is the best way for people to get connected with you and to learn more about what you're doing? So maybe LinkedIn, social media, TikTok, YouTube, maybe you have a podcast and other things like that. Share the best way for people to connect.
Absolutely. Yeah. And maybe these can go in some show notes or something, I would imagine. But yeah,
sure.
You can reach out to us on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Both of those are great ways to connect with us as well. And yeah, and you can also go to our website, ridgelineequity.com. We offer a free, some people call it strategy session. I call it, hey, if something I've talked about resonates with you, then get on there and set up a time to call. If there's a link above, it says join if you go to our website, and it'll allow you to set up a quick 15-minute call with us. So yeah, any of those ways. I love talking to people about this. I think there's a lot to be said about your real estate and investing journey and how that can grow over time. I love helping people understand their vision of that. So
that's beautiful, man. That really nicely. So thank you for joining us. Thanks. Well, we thank the audience for listening to another episode of the Investing Stuff You Should Know podcast. Spread the word. Give us a review. We always appreciate that. Until next time, thank you all.